Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Real Falla.
And Real Falla is a 4-time racing series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. And download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there you can analyze and compare whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. .com today to sign up and get started.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching from. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us here on Apex Racing TV for another exciting broadcast of the Norwegian Sector League, the Blue Sector. We've got rounds 5 and 6 for you, coming to you from the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, in Catalunya region of Spain. My name is Tyler Newitt. I am joined by Johan Karinas and Samuli Kumo on the broadcast today. We've got 2 races coming up for you, this being the Blue Sector of the Norwegian Sector League. It's going to be in Formula 3 cars, and I think we are just about, they've just finished up their practice session, all the drivers setting out now on their qualifying laps. And Johan, you have joined us here at the Norwegian Sector League for the previous round. What should the viewers expect out there today?
In terms of the racing itself, it's going to be high quality racing. This is kind of the warm-up for the national Norwegian league, F3 league that's going to be. The drivers here are definitely very skilled. In terms of the times, I'm not exactly sure. I've not seen Formula 3s on this track, the reference time, but what they are going to do is going to be quick. And in terms of the overtaking, it's a bit of an odd one because some people take on this track and it can be with the fast flowing corners, but with the skill of these drivers, I think we're going to be in for some really incredible overtakes. There's especially at the end of the main straight, turn 1 and 2, which is the Alps chicane, and then also the straight after Kamsa turn, kind of the back straight on the circuit. That's going to be interesting. And then I also want to see what these drivers do with the chicane RACC, the little chicane at the end of the circuit. So definitely some good racing, and I'm expecting some interesting moments throughout the races.
For sure. Followed by a 13-minute feature with an inversion of the top 8. You were mentioning lap times there. In practice, we had 5 drivers in the 1 minute. Gesterbakken, Madsen, Brunstad, and Olaf Petersen. So will be interesting to see if anyone steps it up for qualifying. The drivers get 4 laps. It's solo out on their own. Nobody getting the benefit of that tow down to turn 1 as the first times start coming in. Nobody setting the timing sheets on fire just yet. Goes to the top initially with a 38.9, so a fair bit slower than practice. Obviously, you don't want to be running wide. Easily done around Catalunya, especially up through that uphill right-hander that we just saw Nilsson go through. That will invalidate your qualifying lap, and that'll mean you'll be starting from the back of the grid. But they've got 4 chances to do it here, so will definitely be interesting. As Brunstad, who is quick, that's still a good more than a second off of his practice time, so expect those times to fall as drivers continue to warm up their tires and find their pace. Overtaking zones in the race, Johan. I think turn 1, as you mentioned, is going to be big. These Formula 3 cars, they don't have a ton of power, which is a great recipe for getting a draft. And that front stretch here at the Circuit de Catalunya is massive. Has gone off and had to reset to the pit lane. He'll still get to complete his laps. That front stretch here at Catalunya is absolutely massive, and these drivers will be using that tow from the car in front of them to try and set up an overtake. As now we start to see some quicker times rolling in. Nilsson, who we were watching earlier, jumps to the top with a displaced by Grebstad with a 38.4. So times continuing to fall. We'll see if they drop over the next 2 laps as well.
They've most probably fueled up for the entirety of the qualifying. It's so short, so you just have to rely on these tires getting up to speed as quick as possible, and then burning off your fuel as quickly as you can as well, and as safely as you can. I think as quickly as you can as well, and as safely as you can. I think in the middle of qualifying you're going to have a lot of trouble here, so that's the thing to watch. And then it's also going to be interesting to see how the race itself, and in terms of their pit strategies, whether they're going to go for an undercut or overcut. Of course, these tires keep for a very... We heard drivers say that they didn't have that much wear on the tires for the entirety of the feature race, which is 30 minutes. So I suspect that these tires can go an entire race distance, so for qualifying they're going to be completely fine. I think you just need to wear them in a little bit, the rhythm going.
Yeah, quite right, Johan. I think the other reason that you're going to see drivers fully fueled for this qualifying session is plus you a lap. So you're not really gaining any benefit by underfilling the car because you lose an opportunity to set a quick lap time. But Gesterbakken, who is quick in practice, is up top with a 38.1. Nobody in the 37s quite yet. We'll see if those times come in on the 4th lap, but drivers still filtering through on their 3rd laps. We've got a second separating the top 11 just this moment. Now that goes to the top 12 as Wislov puts in a 6th best time of 38.65. Now Yesdal jumps in, and the field just keeps compressing and compressing at the top. Brunstad improved 2/10 off of the pole, but still back in 5th place. These are some differentiate between them, is there?
No, definitely not. And that we saw exactly that from the previous race. I mean, all of these drivers were up there battling for position. As we see Larson go very close to a 138 flat. And that was the thing about the previous race, the first mistake. And that was what basically shoved people backwards in the orders. All of these guys are doing, and in terms of the consistency that's also coming through with this racing, I think Suzuka might have getting that racing done, getting that racing done consistently. But I have a feeling that Catalunya is going to be a little bit easier for them to manage. So the battles are going to be very close. Grebstad going into the 37s, jumping up in the standings, and then Peterson going up to 7th place with a 138. And unfortunately, Grebstad
qualifying run, so he is decided he doesn't need that car anymore. He'll get a new car for the race. Interesting, Gestrombakken bailed right at the start of his up and off track, or just was down on his best lap and didn't think it was worth finishing off. But when he bailed on that lap, he was up at the top of the timing tower. For whatever reason, Gestrombakken bailed out of that lap. It's cost him, as he has dropped well down the order. Larsen's not going to improve. He ducks into the pit lane. So if you're up top, Grebstad, I say pretty secure. Grebstad is 2 1,000ths off of him, but he has already done his 4 qualifying laps, so he's not going to improve laps. So this is his cooldown lap right now. Not too many drivers out there still with laps to run. It looks in 22nd at the moment. There he is, not to be confused with Ketel, who sits in 4th. Andreas is still got one more lap, but he's not going to do it because the time has run out. And we have our grid, so we'll run through that order as soon as we can get it on your screen. There it is. Brunstad sits on the pole position ahead of Grebstad. Nilsson in 3rd ahead of Ketil Larsen. Gestrombakken in 5th ahead of Madsen. 7th is Gulliksen, with Pedersen in 8th. Wislov in 9th. Yezdal in 10th. Area starts in 11th. Knudsen in 12th. In 13th is Skoret. Evesvik is 14th. Ball 15th. Andreasen 16th. Kvamen in 17th. Helgerud 18th. Updal 19th. Letnes 20th. Slastad 21st. Larsen 22nd. Andersen 23rd. And Chaim 24th. So the grid forming. Oh, sorry. Don't want to forget on Goranson, who finishes in 25th. And we are getting the grid forming now for the start of the race. I believe it's going to be a standing start, Johan. It's going to be tight into turn number 1.
It is going to be, and we saw one of the drivers actually losing out of position. I think it was Larsen at start was so crucial. So again, this is, especially going into that turn 1, you're going to have a superb start on the outside to keep hold of that position. And of course, if you're Grebstad on 2nd, there's a whole opportunity there for you to utilize if you can get the car going fast enough.
Catalunya, of course, one of those interesting circuits where the pole position is actually on the outside of the first corner, though it is the optimal racing line. As the lights come on, Brunstad will lead them into turn 1 if he can get a good jump. Waiting on the lights out now, and they are on, and the drivers are away. Some smoke from drivers spinning tires, but it looks like both Brunstad and Grebstad have got spinning tires, but it looks like both Brunstad and Grebstad have gotten good jumps. Brunstad, gonna have a look here, and this is what I was saying. Brunstad on that optimal racing line from the outside, but if Grebstad gets a good start, the driver on the inside for this first sequence of corners, and just like that, Grebstad takes the race lead, and Brunstad's going to have to fight back. He tucks in behind the field all together, heading up through the first series of corners. Only one driver not on track, who I don't believe made the start, so it's been pretty clean from the get-go here.
Yeah, and I'm going to be Araya taking a bit of a spin. That's going to be a difficult one there. Also, Visvik, unfortunately, finding things have to be on a bit of a recovery drive there. Unfortunately, Nelson as well. I don't know if that was from contact or quite a few drivers, just as we said, rearing its head. But the front runners are really going at it. You've got 2 wide through quite a few difficult corners. Goranson looking on the into seat. And
Turn 10.
Oh, sorry, I've got behind on my graph there. Anyway,
Yep.
2 wide. Yeah, it's very, very, very tricky for the drivers there. They're looking on the inside, going to get the move done. Now into the chicane here.
Who shortcut the chicane. I think that's Knudsen. And has to serve that slowdown, and the whole field goes through, so that's brutal. At the front, though, Brunstad trying to get the move done on Grebstad, but he goes very wide through turn number 2. That's going to cost him a run there. They head with Grebstad securely in front. As the 2 green cars of Easternbakken and Larson follow them through in third and fourth.
For corner, and now we're heading up to seats. Also one of the big overtaking spots, if you can't get this exit done correctly, you lose so much speed, and then you set your further ahead at Kamsa. So Madsen here under pressure. Sorry, not Madsen. Gulliksen.
Yes, putting the pressure on Madsen. And Gulliksen's got a strong run, but he's also got pressure behind from Gjesdal. It's not a sure thing, his position. He's late on the brake. It cost him 6th place, and he spins further around. And that's going to be very, very costly for Gulliksen as he drops outside of the top 10. Just over, so focused on Madsen in front of him. He just lost his braking marker a bit and got a little sideways, and that's put him around him.
These cars are extremely nervous on the brakes. I remember when I used to run them in the league, I could barely utilize 50% of the braking. So it is very difficult in these cars.
Easternbakken sets the fastest lap of the race from 3rd place. So that battle for the lead shaping up. Easternbakken and Larson both want a piece of it. Here is Araya moving into 14th around Slastad. He will now set his sights on Andreas Larson, who has done well after qualifying pretty well towards the back of the field up to 13th place, as we had a driver spinning off in the background there. He didn't hit the wall, I don't think, so he gets back going with the car in one piece.
It's unfortunate for him, having a bit of a rough day there. Looking at the rest of the field, we've got Easternbakken setting the fastest lap with 1:39.86, so that's going to get a lot faster in the future, I'd assume. But we're already 4 minutes into the race, so almost a third in. And we're currently sitting with Grebstad, Brunstakken, and then Larson at the front of the pack. So, to the chicane, and barely touching the anti-cup. They're so difficult getting, not unsettling these cars on these curbs. As once you've got contact with that anti-cut, it can basically throw you off the track entirely.
Formula 3 cars very stiffly sprung. It makes it quite violent anytime you catch any curb, but especially those big sausage curbs you get at tracks like for 5th place. That's Gjesdal behind Madsen. But Gjesdal just settles back in. Not really close enough to make a move happen, but a position. And really, these top 6 are not far apart at all. Any one of them can be a factor in this race before the end, as that was Goranson moving around Nilsson, I believe. No, we're on board with Nilsson. So it was Slastad and Lettnes battling. And Slastad had the move done, and now there's more contact. That was Lettnes getting majorly turned around, but apparently doesn't have any suspension damage in what looked like a pretty violent contact there with Slastad.
Just go on board and see what exactly happened there. So, you see on the inside of the corner. Then just this massive whack from the outside. Almost looks like it drove through the back suspension, so I'm really surprised that that car is not looking a bit worse for wear.
Yeah, I'm not sure what if Slastad was trying to duck in of Lettnes, but for whatever reason, those two came together quite violently, but don't seem to have a ton of damage as we've got more contact, and there is definitely damage. Goranson and sorry, no, that's Opdal and Knudsen. So something separate happened to Goranson there. Continues on. It looked like, who was it? Knudsen, the other car there? I think it was. Knudsen got, then Opdal did. Meanwhile, at the front, up in 7th place, a bit separated from the race leaders, it has to be said. This is Scarrett over 7th place. Scarrett has it, Wislov wants it, but just not quite in striking distance yet is Ragnar, who's got Steve Greenwood rooting for Ragnar. Thanks for joining us here on Apex Racing TV. As Ragnar is continuing to push in. Did well to stay off the curb, but that's probably cost him a good bit of time to Scarrett in front.
Yeah, and I'm just looked, and I can see that first and second and third and fourth are kind of stuck together, so they seem to be battling one another. And I think that battle for third being Grebstad and Brunstad at the moment, because they've been able to open up that gap behind them to Jesperbakken and Larsen.
It appears Jesperbakken and Larsen are teammates here, so I wouldn't imagine they'll be fighting too hard. I think those top two are just quick enough to open this gap up a little bit, and is definitely not out of the tow by any means, still only about a second behind Brunstad. So I think those top two just have a little bit of a pace advantage over these. I also think that if you see Grebstad and Brunstad start to fight, Jesperbakken and Larsen are going to be right there, not to mention Madsen, who's not terribly far off of tow rein, but still somewhere he could pounce if this group gets to fighting. As we're now more than halfway through this race, it's going to be a 15-minute race here, as we mentioned, followed by a 30-minute feature. So position to watch actually is Ragnar Wislöf. If things stay as they do, or as they are rather, for the next 6 minutes, Ragnar would be on pole for race number 2, but of course with 6 minutes left happen, so we'll see how it all shakes out here.
Yeah, definitely. It's unfortunate that I see someone with a whole bunch of damage. Unfortunately, Anderson also having a bit of a moment on the track. It does seem like his car is looking okay, at least, so that's good news.
And Andreas Larsen is around as well. Two similar looking cars finding trouble. Much Larsen was up as high. Much Larsen was up as high as 13th at one point, but now falls back to 17th. So definitely not easy out there for anybody, is it, Johan? It certainly seems like these cars don't have quite as much grip as these drivers would like. Everybody's slipping and sliding just a little bit. The leaders out front seem to be doing just fine. But back in the pack, definitely seems like some drivers are caught out by the grip levels here.
Yeah, so the one thing that I do need, basically a consistent setup for the entirety of the league, and that might be that it's not got the downforce levels that you really would want. I see a lot of people having a bit of trouble with the last sector of the track. I've seen a few crashes happening there, and then of course zone 3 and 4 were also difficult spots for the drivers. So normally you want to have just enough downforce and have that balance of the downforce correct, so that you can just power through the sweeping corners. Maybe just a little bit of a safety lift, but now the drivers really have to wrestle the car around the corners, and that might be really separating them in terms of who's able to adapt quickly and who's used to kind of having those tailored setups. So Araya, they're trying to move on through. Looking at the back of Gulliksen.
Absolutely, yeah. Araya has dropped 1 spot from where he started. Gulliksen's actually dropped 4 spots currently in this battle for 11th and 12th. The big mover, though, or one of them, is the driver ahead of them, Henrik Andreasen, from his starting position. That's tied for the most with Mats Letnes and Simon Ball and Alexander Scarrett. So a number of drivers up 6 spots for position there. That is 11th place. Looking for a spot in the top 10 here. Considering that top 8 is pretty comfortably ahead of Simon Ball at the moment. So I think barring some unforeseen issues for Wislöf, it's going to be position, or at least a front row start in race number 2. But much still to play for here in this one, as that lead battle has not really... Jesperbakken has been under increasing pressure from Larsen, but they've really not fallen off the back of these top 2, which is pretty impressive, given how right in the same shot there are Jesperbakken and Larsen. So definitely not over at the front, but it just seems like everyone is everyone seems to have just about the same pace, and that toe is not playing as big a role as I would have expected for these drivers, or they're just in front of them, which is costing. But at the moment, still as it has been for pretty much the entirety of the race from the first corner. Grebstad from Brunstad from Yestermbach.
Yeah, so being teammates, I know from the previous race they don't really do tactics well, they don't plan their tactics that aggressively. It's that they just want to keep ahead with the front runners for in case something happens. So they've kind of settled into their positions. I think they have a bit of a just trying to stay ahead from Larson behind, sorry, not Larson, Madsen behind them, and then keep up with Grebstad and Brunstad so close, and just kind of manage that gap is also very impressive. So 1 minute, less than 1 minute left of the race, and I think positions. I think Whistler might have changed position there.
I don't know if we have confirmation from producer Sam, but I think going to be awfully close as far as the timing when the cars cross the line. So there's a chance it didn't trip iRacing's white flag calculator. Corner now is 10 seconds. No, I think we're going to get one more here. So this will be the white flag lap as they cross the line. One more to run for Grebstad and Brunstad. Gestall, no, sorry, that's Larson who's defending from Madsen. So Madsen has brought himself right back into this battle, running some quick laps and actually makes the moves and mighty impressive, driving there from Madsen to grab 4th place in the waning stages of this race. That was a really, really stellar move.
That because he was hanging in that space for quite some time, and then it almost feels like he pounced and just made use of his advantage. It does seem like he got a bit of a slow exit for that corner, so we'll keep that a bit of an eye on that, and with Larson back on the attack.
Sorry, somebody in the top 8 must have met with, or the back half of the top 8 must have met with some trouble. I think it was Gestall, because 6th, who we were watching in 8th. I think Skurret may have had issues as well. As Madsen's around. Oh goodness, what's happened here? Now, did he have help or was that unassisted? We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on the battle for the feature race pole as well. This is Gullikson and Andreasen. It's a little across the line is going to be the win for Grebstad. And Brunstad in 2nd behind as it was through the whole race. Back around with Madsen having the trouble, obviously, but Madsen recovered for 5th. We've had more contact here. This is Gullikson and Andreasen. No, sorry, it's Andreasen and Gestall in the closing lap for Gestall, who was looking to be in that top 8 reverse, I believe. Now with some damaged suspension.
Yeah, that was very close at the end for Larson. I think he got really lucky there. Also, in terms of Gestall, I think he might have just lost confidence in his car. Actually, I see the timings now. He had a bit of a crash, so that's what lost him.
So we have the replay.
And again, it's that last sector of the track. And that's just completely overshooting the chicane. And
he's not the first driver we've seen. Yeah, I wonder if he had some lingering damage there.
That's all. He might have just caught a bit of a slowdown from the...
True. Yeah, that's true as well. Tough to say. Well, we saw his contact with Andreasen towards the end of the race, so that could have further damaged his car. But here are your race 1 results for you. Grebstad, your race winner from Brunstad and Yestrembakken on the podium. Larson comes home 4th ahead of Madsen. Wislof jumps up to 6th in the closing stages ahead of Skurret. And Ball will be your race 2 pole sitter. Araya brings it home in 9th. Gullikson rounds out the top 10. Then it's Andreasen, Gjesdal, Nilsson, Letnes, Helgerud, Larson, Ebbesvik, and Kvamen in the top 18. Behind them, it's Slastad, Andersen, Opdal, Knudsen, Goranson, Peterson, and Haheim didn't take the start of the race, I don't believe. 10 laps down. Seems to have not made the start of the race, but Drivers will have a brief 5-minute warm-up session before race number 2, which gives me a chance to tell you about some of our partners here at Apex Racing TV who help make this possible. The first of which is the Virtual Racing School. You can improve your on-track performance with 50-plus data packs for both road and oval racing. They've got setups, they've got track guides, they've got my favorite part of the service, which is the data analysis software. And if you're so inclined, you can get one-on-one coaching as well. This season, I've used VRS quite a bit in the GT4 and the supercars as well. Madison Down does a great job with his track guides in the supercars. So if you haven't signed up, if you haven't heard of it before, check out Virtual Racing School. If you want to improve your driving, they're just one of the most helpful resources on the iRacing service. Get you some of those data packs and track guides. We're also helped out here by SDK Gaming, and you know that for a fact because you can see the overlays on your screen. That's brought to you by SDK Gaming. You can add a virtual live HUD to your iRacing. You can show timing towers, enhance relative boxes, mini maps, fuel calculators, and more. You can also stream to Twitch with the most complete overlay on iRacing. And if you've got a league that you want to broadcast, you can broadcast that using the SDK software, which will sync up with your broadcaster and your commentary teams. So both Johan and I are synced with Sam right now. We see what he's showing us. And you can focus, drive, and overlay with your broadcaster. You can also, of course, adjust your team strategy on the fly with the most accurate live timing on iRacing. So if you want to help support us here at Apex Racing TV, give our friends over at SDK Gaming a look. They will help you bring your streams or your leagues or anything that you might want to broadcast to life. That's SDK Gaming. So we've got one more race coming up tonight for you, or this afternoon if you're living on the west coast of the U.S. like me. It is going to be 30 minutes. We're going to see a top 8 reverse, as we'd mentioned, with Ball on the pole. Now, Johan, I feel like a top 8 reverse is just small enough to not throw a major wrench in the plans of those quick guys, but certainly we can see there's going to, as there always is with reverse grids, there's going to be some carnage, you'd have to imagine, towards the front of the field.
Yeah, the gap between these drivers isn't that big. I've commentated on some leagues where they had a full grid swap around, and it was basically a Div 2 race, and then everything just goes pear-shaped. Here, we don't really have that much of a challenge. I do think some of the drivers might get caught out by some aggressive overtakes, and they might drop themselves down a few positions by running wide or making a few mistakes. It all depends on where the faster drivers are going to go for those overtakes. So they need to be very careful. They can potentially ruin their race if they scare someone and then get run into themselves. But for the first lap, I think a lot of the drivers are just going to be concentrating on getting through it. So it is going to be extremely challenging. And then they also need to focus on when they take their fuel. You'll probably see quite a few drivers run their fuel down to the last drop and then pitting to just kind of replenish their fuel, trying to just split the race 50-50. And for some reason, I've seen some drivers try and go for the undercut. I'm not exactly sure how that works with the current tire model for the F3 cars, but they've made it work in some way.
Yeah, so a lot of that comes down to taking yourself out of traffic, isn't it? You know, people think of the undercut as we've got your grid on screen, which we will run through. Simon Ball, Alexander Scarrett in second, Wisloff and Madsen third and fourth, Larson, Yestrumbach, and Brunstad. And them, it's Araya, Gullikson, Andreasen, Gesdal, Nilsson, Letnes, Helgerud, Larson, Ebsvik, Kvamen, Slastad, Andersen, Onsen, Pedersen, and Haim. So we people often think about the undercut in terms of tire or fuel strategy, you know, as we've got the lights coming on. but actually a lot of the time it has to do with just taking yourself out of a battle. I think I saw a jump start in the back, not sure who that was, but we're green now. It's a decent start from Ball. Scarrett also got a good side as Grebstad did in race number 1. As they're fanning out 3 wide, maybe 4 wide into turn number 1. That's Grebstad looking to the inside and wisely backs out of it. But that's going to prove costly for him as they head up into turn number 3. Grebstad was looking to the inside 3 wide of the cars in front, but that gap closed and he had to back out of it. So he sits in 8th where he started. Not a ton of change at the front. Scarrett was able to clear Ball into 6th with Brunstad prevailing. And Knudsen is off track in 22nd. He'll drop to the back of the field there. Grebstad, though, we charge to the front. Brunstad's been sent back to 7th and now is going to lose this place, I believe. Oh! Was that a hit from a car or a hit from a curb? As Brunstad and Grebstad are top 2, and they've collected a number of drivers in this one. So I didn't see, there was definitely an initial hit on Grebstad, but what I didn't see was if it was a car or a curb that did it. And we've got a replay now of what happened. So he's on the inside of Grebstad. Oh, it was actually just caught his left rear with Brunstad's left front. And that set off that chain of events. So our top 2 finishers are not going to finish there in race number 2. That was another driver around. That was Nilsson, I think. There in race number 2. That was another driver around. That was Nilsson, I think. So it's all going on. I think Nilsson was one of the cars caught up in that initial wreck as well. So not 2 for Hans Morgan Nilsson.
Yeah, I did not expect them to try and pass through the word chicane. That's to me that's a very the Kamsa and that long straight after that. Ball trying to hold on to his position here, but Larsen is going to try and dance through on the inside and is going to position him and it's going to be close. Unfortunately they do touch and that's going to be Ball span behind and a whole bunch of drivers collected. I see Madsen there. So unhappy about that.
Oh, quite an unsafe rejoin there from Larsen, and it's cost him dearly as he is sent well off the track. But just some sloppy maneuvering around here in the early stages of this race. If you look up front, the only drivers who made the top 8 reverse who are up front, Gullikson, Gjesdal, and Wislov. So the back half of that top 8, actually, sorry, Gullikson and Gjesdal were outside of the top 8 at the start of the race. So it's been nothing but trouble. Wislov and Scarrett, the only drivers still running from that original top 8. So 6 of our top 8 drivers have found early. Larsen, Gjestrembakken, Grebstad, and Brunstad, excuse me. So I said I was expecting a little bit of carnage, but I have to say I wasn't quite expecting this much, but you know, that's what happens when you're racing in close quarters. Sometimes you make contact. And unfortunately, we've seen some of that. But we're watching here the battle between Wislov and Araya for 4th place, and going fiercely to fight Wislov ahead at the moment. See if Araya can make the fight back here as they head into the 2nd sector.
The 2 drivers that really the start of the race are going to be Gullikson and Gjesdal. They basically jumped, Gullikson jumped 8 positions and then 9 positions for Gjesdal. They've had quite some good luck in the start of the race, just avoiding everything. I know Gjestrembakken was up there with them and unfortunately got caught in that. So now the question is, are they going to be able to hold on to these positions? It does look like Scarrett is driving off into the distance in the front, but
you kind of wonder who's, by and large, the reverse has shaken out. So these are drivers running, you know, in what you might call their rightful position. One after, as Gullikson's had a spin at the pit entry. Now, was he trying to pit, or is he just taking this opportunity now after the spin to make his pit stop? We'll see in just a moment here.
I think he might be avoiding a black flag. He might have spun into the pit.
Trying to pit, but I think you're absolutely right. Spins it back around and comes into pit lane. If not to avoid a back flag, potentially to serve a penalty as quick as he can, as now Yezdal has had trouble. So commentators curse in full effect here. Gullikson and Yezdal, two of the biggest in trouble. And this battle between Araya and Wislov is still going on, and now is for the remaining 2 podium position. And Wislov settles in behind Araya in 3rd place.
I think he might want to scope out where Araya is a bit slower, whereas this early in the race you don't really know that much about your opponent's strengths and weaknesses unless you actually ran around them in the previous race. So I see both leaving the pit lane now. Wislov still hanging behind Araya a little bit, so...
Was that more trouble for Yezdal there? I think it was, and he, who has recovered nicely from that earlier incident with his teammate, into 5th place.
He recovered quite well from that earlier happening. Slotstad was going for a bit of a battle there. His opponent just turning into the pit.
Whoa!
That is some heavy braking to avoid the camera there. I hope
Yezdal was fully sideways, and I think he got it slowed down, but I'm just amazed he didn't lose it, as we'll get a replay of that as well. Plenty of action to keep Sam's finger busy on the replay button. He was already having trouble. And you can see him slam on it here. He's already wiggling fully sideways. Now, they don't change tires, so that's not going to be a help for him. But at the same time, you mentioned how durable the drivers are finding these tires, Johan. Maybe that's just going to keep some heat in him when he exits the pit lane.
Well, if you kind of slam on the brakes that hard, I think your tires will be heated for quite some time. But he's gotten out, he's gotten running again, so I think it is unfortunate when you catch yourself out in the pits like that. Coming under pressure, sorry, Slotstad, and just fighting around the corner, so they're kind of to and fro, back and forth. Slotstad now moving ahead. They're still not letting up. They're still side by side. So I think Slotstad might have realised that it's getting into.
It got a little hairy there as Slotstad went quite wide and caught some of that curbing. Fastest lap of the race was just Madsen down in 14th, who you wonder what could have been starting in 5th, but it was just grabbed back by Alexander Skaret, who leads the 7th. So some quick times up on the board. We'll see if any of the other setback drivers are able to put up some fast laps. As that's a spin. Turn 3 just completely lost the rear end of from, I believe, 9th position, and now is dropping back. But so many drivers have had trouble that there's a 9th place, and Helgerud really won't lose all that much in terms of track position.
Yeah, that turn 3 is quite interesting because you kind of need to lift at the start of it and it's all around you. You really want to get that throttle down as early as possible. And I think these guys just get a little bit too eager, and then it's almost an airplane crash happening on that. So just a quick thing that caught my eye, Knudsen actually moved up 16 positions. No, sorry. Yeah, 16 positions.
Yep. Lap of the race from Brunstad, who sits ahead of Madsen, who we're looking at now. Madsen was pretty quick as well, but Brunstad will be in 13th place. Now Araya goes fastest with 38.5, so time's continuing to fall as the fuel burns out of these cars, as Nilsson makes the move. Stick not quite. Madsen able to get the power down and stay in 14th for the moment. And we've seen some of the first of the kind of schedule makes his way down pit lane from, I think, 9th at the time of his entering the pit lane. Oh, and now Madsen's had a spin. Did he have help there? He was looking pretty loosey-goosey in that battle with Nilsson heading into that, but certainly had a spin there. Doesn't head for pit lane. Keeps it out of the lane at the moment. Let's see, it looks like potentially all on his own. Certainly all on his own. Locks the rear and goes for a spin, so he is going to lose out in that battle. It looked like they were just waiting for him to rejoin the track. That is a lapped car. I think that is Ebesvik in behind, steering clear of Madsen. So we have had quite a few drivers on pit lane already. A lot of those were after early incidents. Who have is Marcus Gesdal in 11th place. So keep your eye on that to see where the remaining drivers shake out. But at the moment, the top 10 all have not made their first pit stop in this race of the one mandatory pit stop.
Has actually positioned himself quite nicely if he can make the fuel work for the rest of the race, because by the looks of things, Alexander Scarrett about, if I'm reading my timing screens correctly, about 40 seconds ahead. So
I took 7 seconds ahead for Scarrett. Oh, sorry, 40 seconds ahead of Gesdal.
yes. So
Yes, yeah.
the unfortunately for the time lost during the pit stops is all over the place. I think that might be from people spinning into the pit lane itself. But it's about, let's say, 35 seconds for everything in its entirety. So possibly putting Gesdal in a very fortunate position. So yeah, the pit time loss being about 30 seconds, and then out of around 5 to 6 seconds, I think. So it's going to be very close. If Gesdal can get his foot down and get those faster laps in on Scarrett, Araya, and Wislov.
Yeah, I think Scarrett's going to be pretty well clear unless he has a slow stop. We do have kind of the pit lane transit times and to do repair have been right around 30 seconds. So Scarrett might be clear, but Araya is the one who needs to be worried in second place because just going off of the transit time, which isn't around where Gesdal is when he comes out of the pit lane. Opdal is into the pits to make his mandatory stop. He pits from 8th position. Pulls in right behind Anderson, who's been in the pits for a little while now.
I think Anderson's car, it looked a bit crash, so I think he might be still repairing some of the damage. So Opdal now coming in right in front of Slabstad. Well, a bit of a margin for error there, so he's going to be fighting on from there on.
Helps get a sense to kind of where these drivers will shake out. So only a net 4 positions lost there. No, sorry, 5 positions lost there for Opdal, coming from 8th to 13th. And with drivers who had been behind him still to pit, you figure he's not going to end up too far outside the top 10. So drivers further ahead can be pretty confident that they're going to be in and around the top 10 if they can keep it clean. Here's top 10, still the highest running of the cars who have made their way down pit lane. He is right on the back now of Helgerud. This is 4th position, and this is not what Gesdal wants. With pit stop beginning to happen, he'll want to make quick work of Helgerud because this is costing him time on the undercut.
Yeah, especially since Helgerud still needs to get his pit stop done. So now looking on the inside, he's going to have to try, and they're going to go in side by side, and then Gesdal is going to pull out ahead of Helgerud. So getting it done nice and quickly, and now he's got some clean air in front of him just to you can get those faster laps in to just get in position for when those other drivers are going to pit.
Yeah, I think Helgerud wise not to fight that one too much. It's not really his, but has a stop to make. Instead, he can ride a little bit behind Gesdal and use that toe a little bit to maybe pull him along a little bit faster because that was a clean and clear-cut move, I think, from the get-go. So Gesdal continues his march back towards the top 7 now, with Gesdal showing in 8th. Here's Brunstad, who has also recovered well. He's done his pit stop on lap 1, so he pit after that initial attack. Sits in 10th place.
Yeah, actually had a fairly quick pit stop by the looks of things. Haas might have helped him as well. Now it's all going to be about that fight through the pack, and he's going to have to get past Helgerud now. Difficult part of the circuit to do it. So now through to Holland.
Helgerud pulls aside and lets him through, it looks like. Or is he defending here? It looked like Helgerud was pulling to the inside to let Brunstad have, and he has. So Helgerud knows where his fight is, and it's not to be battling with these recovering super quick drivers still to go. So that's another position up for Brunstad. And honestly, Brunstad might have a shot at Gjesdal before this is all said and done. And those two fighting at the gap, and how that might shake out. I think it would be around a net 4th place for Brunstad right at this moment. But we know massively quick lap time at the moment, so don't think it's out of the question to see Brunstad or Gjesdal race.
Yeah, they just have to get the foot down. They're actually Gjesdal and Brunstad are lapping very closely in terms of the times. I think it's about 10 or 9 100ths. Sorry, 11 100ths. They're doing very well for themselves. It's difficult to recover when you've got such a rough start, but I think with the incidents that have been happening on track, the door has been opened for them again, so they do have an opportunity to get that get a good position in again.
Yeah, absolutely. As we are past halfway, actually closing in on 2/3 distance of this race, so the drivers out front, not suspected some would. They're instead looking to go the full distance, I think, and pit just right before the end here, as there is your race leader. He's pretty much got this one in hand, barring issue. Just needs to keep setting the laps he's been setting, and he will pretty easily carry away.
Yeah, if Brunstad and Gjesdal start battling one another, I think both Scarrett and Araya are going to be very happy with that. Moment, I think they might just be chasing until they know where the other drivers end up after the pits. Now through the chicane, we've got Scarrett entering the pits.
Yep, so that will hand the lead over to Luis Araya. So will be interesting to watch where Scarrett comes out, though we figure he'll be pretty well clear of Gjesdal, who is... Oh, he overshot his pit there. That'll cost him a couple of seconds, but he had more than that in hand, and should still be pretty well clear of Gjesdal when this is all over. Letnes and Knudsen also making their pit stop, so is Andreasen. So we've got a number of drivers making their way down pit.
Yeah, that does seem like a good recovery for him in terms of the pit stop.
And actually, Letnes has stayed ahead of... surprises me.
Yeah, so... Sorry, I'm just keeping my... But it's a very good place for Scarrett and Letnes to end up. There's quite a big gap between Gjesdal and Letnes.
By that, Letnes was running, I believe, in 5th before entering the pit lane, potentially 4th. So it's good news for Araya and Wislov, who should pretty easily come out ahead of Gjesdal and Brunstad, but for the podium places. But no matter, as we see Araya head for the pit lane. We'll see if Wislov follows him. Does. So top 2 in the pit lane. That leaves only Yestrembakken, who has not made his way into the pits. Everybody has made their pit stops now. Oh, wiggle on the brakes there from Yestrembakken, but he gets it together. So Scarrett reassumes the... He will be pretty well clear of Letnes and Gjesdal, as will Wislov. So that is pretty much. Letnes assumes 4th, Gjesdal 5th, and Brunstad 6th.
So they've actually jumped ahead of Yestrembakken, but they're far up as I would have assumed them to be. I think my maths might have been a tad bit optimistic there. might need to start keeping a calculator with me for this. Gestal now under pressure here. Well, not under pressure from Brunstad. You can see it's all going to be about the exit here. It's so easy to slow down and lose a position. Gestal again running the defensive line. Place for overtakes. This is where we saw that big crash. And now this is the straight where you want that speed to really. Brunstad has a bit of a drive on them. It's going to be tricky on the outside. Gestal running very defensively, very nicely through that corner.
Yep. It sounded like he had to get out of the gas a little bit on that straight. I think he might have not been anticipating where Gestal was going to go. Does seem like Brunstad has the pace. I mean, he was able to close this gap, so it's not a huge surprise his way past. I think this is going to be it. He's got a great run out of the final corner. Looks to the outside. And will have the run down the straight and the optimal line through the corner. See if Gestal hands it over or if he fights this one as they head into the braking zone for turn number 1. And Gestal fighting it on the brakes. But Brunstad hangs it around the outside. He's got the line for turn 2. But he can't quite clear him into turn 3, so it's not done yet. He'll try and cut it back as they head into turn number 4. Bit defensive there from a little wheel-to-wheel contact there, but they both keep going. Brunstad now 5th, Gestal in 6th, and Yestermbaka not far behind in 7th. So the top few who had their early troubles starting to filter back towards the front. But they're not going to catch Alexander Scarrett, barring some major issues. Battle for the top 10, Madsen versus Andreasen. And Madsen stuck on the outside, going to be tough to hang that one out, but he does ahead of Andreasen.
I think Andreasen lost way too much time running defensively there through seat. Or set. It just cost him on the exit. You really need to have that speed heading up to Worth. Otherwise, you're going to lose out massively. And I think he might have picked the wrong. That being said, I think also doing very well.
No, yeah, it's a solid battle between those two. As we jump back to who has about 2.5 seconds in hand over Araya. That's not as much as it was. So we saw him overshoot the pit box, 3.5 seconds. And the pace there is about the same between those two. So really it was just that pit stop, 3.5 seconds or so, puts to 6 seconds. So that's about what the difference was going into the pit sequence. So not terribly different as Garrett as well. So that could have been part of what's closed that gap. But there you can see Araya in the background actually. So it's not all over. But at the moment, they're paced pretty much the same, so unless he can get within towing range, that's going to be a tall order for Araya to claim a race win.
The tires might be getting to the point where they just start acting a little bit differently, and with the fact that these drivers were already have been struggling with the cars at the tires are still fresh, I think they're just being slightly cautious here. And this is Gestal going very slow and off track.
And off the track.
It
certainly looked like an equipment failure to me, unless he had damage. Certainly looked like an equipment failure to me, unless he had damage that we couldn't see from that onboard perspective. Yeah, this is earlier on in the race. We don't know if we have a replay of the moment. Sam's trying to find one for us, but.
Yeah, we have had a few drivers with fading VR headsets, and I think if you lose visibility like that, because it doesn't seem like he lost steering completely.
Oh.
Because it doesn't seem like he lost steering completely.
Oh. No, he does. I think you could be spot on with that call, Johan. It's some sort of visual thing, because he's just kind of feeling yeah, so some sort of monitor failure or VR failure. I drive in VR. I've had it freeze up on me a few times, and it's never fun. So a tough break there for Gestal. Was running in the top of the field. As we see Scarrett now He's opened that gap up a good bit over Araya while we were watching that. I don't know if that's just pure lap pace. At 4 seconds now. It wasn't the last time around. It had to have been something this lap for Araya. We'll see. It's 39.0 for Scarrett. Yes, thank you. Sector 3 proved costly for Araya there.
And that's again, the drivers are really struggling with that. It's just, the chicane is already tricky to just get the braking done, and these cars.
Oh, that's Letna's out of the top 4. Out of drop behind Brunstad and Yesterbakken. So he will settle into 6th place, but tough break there. I think he just lost it on his own. There wasn't anyone super close to it. Turn 1. Yeah, a little too much curb. It doesn't have any damage, so he should be good to continue on. But costly mistake there for Mats Letnes.
I think the confidence might be shaken after that. And the continuing, he's now got Nilsson behind him. So we're very close to the end of the race now.
If Sam is correct on that one. Indeed, we are ticking over the time limit here, so it will be the checkered flag for Alexander Araya. We'll bring it home in 2nd place as he rounds the final corner. Didn't want to call it too early. Araya for 2nd. Behind them, it's another 7 celebrating that podium. A well-deserved podium there for Wislov. Kept it out of trouble and ran a spotless race. Brunstad recovers from his early issues to finish 4th. Yesterbakken and Letnes will just hold on. So quite the comeback drive for Brunstad and Yesterbakken. Feel bad for Marcus Jestal with the seeming equipment failure not long before the end of the race. But really just a momentous drive from Alexander Scarrett. Got the lead in turn number 1 and never really looked back, did he?
On him, he was just running away from a giant fireball happening behind him. But doing really well to keep it consistent. I think just the fact that to run this specific track without any issues, as we saw quite a few drivers struggling. And I think that might be Araya deciding that is enough for it. But yeah, a very, very interesting race. Not at all what I expected. And some post-race donuts from Farman as he celebrates the fact that this is finally over and he can relax a little bit.
Absolutely. We'll get your results for you in just a moment. Once everything's ticked over, there it is. Your feature race winner, Alexander Scarrett, ahead of Araya and Wislov on your podium. Following them up is Brunstad and Yesterbakken. Letnes in 6th, Nilsson 7th, Knudsen in 8th, Madsen in 9th, Andreasen in 10th. Uppdal brings it home just outside the top 10 in 11th. Then Kvamen, Slastad, Gulliksen, Grebstad from the race 1 winner could only manage 15th after the early trouble. Helgerud brings it home 16th, Larsen in 17th. Pole sitter Simon Ball had some damage, comes home in 18th. Jestal, we saw the equipment failure there in 19th. Andersen, Larsen, Ebesvik, Goranson, Pedersen, and again, not taking the start was Nikolai Hayem. That is your feature race results. We'll see if we have any drivers waiting to talk to us in the broadcast booth. And we do. So I am going to go ahead and bring our feature race winner, Alexander Scarrett, in to the booth. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, it was no race is ever truly smooth sailing, but I have to say it was about as close as it could. Turn 1, you got the lead, and you didn't really look back, did you?
No, I was really happy when I got the gap, so I could just push on, and everyone seems.
Yeah. Did you obviously you had some teammates there near the front with you. Did you have a sense of what was going on behind you, or?
Yeah, we are on voice chat, so I heard, but I tried to just think about myself and keep my head down. I got 2 scares in the pit. I drove too far, so I have to back up. And my shifter paddle failed mid-race, so I had to disconnect the wheel and...
Goodness. Well, that partly explains where that lead gap came down. We saw you'll be happy to know we caught your pit lane mishap on camera. I think we've all done it at one time or another. But otherwise, and especially now knowing the adversity you faced, drive. So what I have to say, we don't have the current standings for the series, so I don't know where you stand at the moment. But surely,
no, I have made a mess of both my feature race before and got a 40-second pit penalty both races. So really good jump in the standings, I think.
Well, absolutely glad to hear that. Definitely an impressive performance. You didn't get another 40-second pit lane penalty, because that would have been quite unfortunate. Alexander, do you have anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you?
A great spirit, and we help each other and we make each other good. So that's really great.
Awesome. Glad for joining us in the booth here, coming to talk to us, and congratulations once again on your feature race win, Alexander Skaret.
Thank you very much.
And now, Johan, I am going to grab our feature race runner-up, Luis Arrea, for you.
Hello. And congrats. That was a very, very chaotic race, and I think you're probably very happy with the position you got. Massive congratulations. And just from your perspective, jumped 7 positions from your from your race start position. What was that like from your perspective?
It's the first cold tires, and people just spun in front of me, so I was lucky to not get involved in anything. So yeah, very happy with that. And going on around me, I just tried to avoid the wrecks around me, and suddenly I was P4, I think, or P3, and then I spun around a couple of places before in front of me, and then it was a little bit of craziness in the starts of the car.
And what was it like? Did you have to kind of mentally reset yourself after that first lap to just kind of focus on the drive? You kind of mentally reset yourself after that first lap to just kind of focus on the driving again, or was it after you got around for the second lap?
I tried to reset myself on the main straight, and think it's a long race, and just the tires and not spun around, because it takes 3-4 laps before the tires getting some heat. So so we have to be laps.
And in terms, speaking of the tires, so in the last few laps, were the tires starting to fall off, or was it just a case of that on this track that you really had to start, that all of the drivers had to start being careful of exceeding the grip of the tires?
At the last, I think the second to last lap, I lost the connection with my. I had to reset then, and I lost a couple of seconds into Alex. So I think Alex had the same fault a couple of laps back, that have so good room until Ragnar, because he was a couple of seconds behind me. So suddenly, I was a little. What you called? A little panicking when the wheel suddenly lifts, so I need to unplug and plug the USB again. So in the middle of the corner, so it was but the rears was a little bit gone, but not much. So that's my problem, was the wheel actually.
It almost seems like you guys are as practiced as the Red Bull pit crew when it comes to disconnecting and reconnecting the peripherals for the race. How you've done it, but well done. And
Thank
then
you.
any shout outs from your side, or any supporters that you want to say thank you for?
I want to thank Singh, And yeah, there's a good group of guys. We are training a lot together. So yeah.
And massive congratulations.
Thank you very much
for your time.
Thank you to you as well. A nice production. So I'm looking forward to see the.
It's going to be thanks to Samuli. So thanks again, Ryan. So Tyler, I think we've got someone else that we pull in.
Yeah, we've got a few more interviews to go for you. And I'm going to grab our final podium finisher from the feature race. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. And good
it was, yeah, it was a, you had a prince there in the feature race, which I think you would have had some fun with, because in the sprint race it seemed like you were for a little bit, but definitely seemed like you were having a fun battle at the start of the feature race there.
Yes, in the beginning we were evenly matched, so and he became too strong for me, so I concentrated really on trying to finish where I was.
Certainly, Luis pulled away at the end there, but really an impressive performance from you there in both races. I think a lot going on around you, and a lot of drivers running into issues, either on their own volition or with some other drivers, and really put into pretty stellar performances.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. But I think, as you say, I think the results were actually more a result of keeping my nose clean than being ultra fast during these two races. But well, that's partly finished both races with 0x, so that's I'm happy with that.
Yeah, 0x around Catalunya is no small feat, nor is a podium position in a series as competitive as this one, even with what was good. To put in a result like you did, you still have to have race pace, and certainly you were quick enough to justify your mighty impressive. Do you have anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
That must be to the organizers, Luis again, and Simon Brunstes, and for letting us have such fun racing every second week. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that we can just come and race, and we're very grateful to them for that.
Fantastic, and it makes our lives easy as well when everything is just set up. And congratulations once again on your podium, Ragnar, and we will see you next time out.
Thank you very much, Tyler. Good evening.
For one more interview, if you're able, Johan, I'm going to grab race 1 runner-up and pole sitter, not series organizer.
Hey.
Pole sitter, not series organizer.
Hey, how are you?
I think we might have lost Johan for the moment, so I will handle the interviewing.
I apologize, I'm back.
Very good. Go ahead.
Yes. So, just firstly, something about that race. Bit of a tough start, but we saw you. What was that first portion like for you, and also kind of how did you have to adapt your strategy to what happened earlier in the race?
I presume you're talking about the second race here, but yeah, it doesn't really change anything. It's it just means that I have to work up for the last time. So after the unfortunate crash in turn 7-8, I was pretty behind the lead. Managed to close that gap down to 15 by the end and a P4, so I'm pretty happy. And I mean, the first race I on voice chat just before the start that shit I should have gone for P2 and because the inner line there is a lot better for the start, and I just was a Grebstad for P1 in the first race.
Yeah, that inside line was extremely powerful for both of the races, and it made things for the first few turns quite interesting, to say the least. But you did really well getting that time back as you went. In terms of the car setup, we saw a lot of drivers struggling to kind of approach to the limit of grip. and especially turn 3 and then that last sector of the race. Was it any difficulty for you, or do you think drivers might have just been pushing too hard?
Yeah, I think they were pushing too hard. I've been working a lot on my steering inputs and the techniques, because that's really important for this track. In particular, really turn 3, like you said, and also turn 9, which is the fast right hand. Flat out, when it's as hot as it was today, you just have to go easy on the steering input. So I think it's down to maybe not putting in enough laps. I don't know. Yeah, it works for me.
No, I think that consistency was so much with the recovery. Then any shout-outs from your side to some supporters or?
Yeah, well, it's the usual stuff. I want to thank you guys for your continued work with broadcasting and commentating the series. It's real popular among the drivers and their families and friends. So other than that, it's my coaches like usual. It's Suelo Almeida, who's my driving coach, and Misha Firish, which is my mental coach. And I also with Luis Araya, who got the P2, and Nikolai Hoheim, who unfortunately had technical issues today, so he couldn't join the race.
Yeah, it's always nice to see people that's invested in the league, especially with coaches and teams. So it's been really. Thank you so much for your time, Brunstad.
Yeah, thank you, Johan, and have a good evening.
Thanks. You too.
The interviews we have time for today, as we wrap up our broadcast here. Want to let you know what you can be looking forward to this upcoming week on Apex Racing TV. Once our webpage loads for me, there it is. Sorry about that. Well, unfortunately, the Apex Racing League Truck Series broadcast should almost be over, but if you want to jump over to that broadcast now, or once I'm done reading off what there is to see, that is going on right at this very moment, which is the trucks at Eldora. Friday, we have the Apex Racing League Super Trucks Championship round 4 at Brands Hatch. Those guys know how to put on a show, so definitely worth tuning into. Also Friday, we have the Radical Racing Challenge round 12 at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. And I've seen some onboard video of the Radicals around the Nordschleife, and it looks absolutely insane. So that will definitely be worth tuning into as well. Then we head to the weekend on Saturday. We've got the usual Apex Racing Academy F3 VRS Super Series. Dual Apex Racing Academy F3 VRS Super Series. That's round 6 at Silverstone. So if you liked what you saw with the Formula 3 cars today, you can tune in to the F3 League at Silverstone on Saturday as well. Also Saturday, we have the Formula 3.5 Championship, round 12 at Interlagos. That will be directly following the F3 series, so you can tune in to both. Heading to Sunday, we've got the Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship, round 10 at Zandvoort. Also Sunday, we have the SRF Weekend Warriors round 12 at Hockenheim. And following that up, or actually overlapping a little bit, we have our other F3 series we broadcast. That's the IGP Fun F3 VRS series, round 12, also at Silverstone. On Monday, we have the return of the Apex Racing League Formula V series, round 5 at Brands Hatch. Then Tuesday, it's the pros in the Apex Racing League GT3 Pro Trophy, heading to Laguna Seca for that one. That's Tuesday evening. Wednesday, we have the Ray Esports Racing League. That, of course, is Tuesday night for those of you here in the U.S., and that'll be round 6 at Circuit of the Americas. That's what's coming to you next week, or this upcoming week, rather, on Apex Racing TV. And where can you watch it? You can watch it on YouTube, which is probably where you're watching it right now. That is YouTube Apex Racing TV. please give us a subscribe if you haven't already. That way you will not miss any of our broadcasts, and you won't miss any fantastic racing like we saw here today. Also, make sure to give us a follow on whether that's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. I believe we have all of those, and it'll all be under the Apex Racing TV banner. We're coming races and where you can catch them and when, so definitely want to get tuned in on our social media channels and give those a follow as well. But that'll do it for us here at Catalunya today for the Norwegian Sector League Blue Sector Series. For myself, for Johan, for Samuli, and everyone at Apex Racing TV, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.